What if the secret to a sharp, age-resistant mind isn't in a pill, but inside a jar of living microbes? Most people treat their gut and their brain as two completely separate systems. One digests food, the other does the thinking. But a growing body of research says that's simply wrong. They're wired together, constantly talking to each other, every hour of every day. Today we're revealing 5 fermented foods that don't just support digestion. They actively influence the communication line between your gut and your brain. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which ferments to add to your routine and why the science behind them is more compelling than most people realize. The gut-brain highway. To understand why fermented food matters for your brain, you first need to understand the vagus nerve. It's the longest nerve in your autonomic nervous system, running from your brainstem down through your chest and into your digestive tract, and it carries signals in both directions. Here's what surprises most people. The vagus nerve carries far more information from the gut up to the brain than it does from the brain down to the gut. Somewhere in the range of 80 to 90% of its fibers are dedicated to sending signals upward. That means your gut isn't a passive digestion machine waiting for instructions. It's constantly reporting back to your brain about what's happening inside it, including what kind of bacteria are living there. Researchers studying this gut-brain axis have found that the composition of your gut microbiome can influence this signaling, affecting things like stress response, mood regulation, and even aspects of cognitive function. It's an active and evolving area of research, but the direction of the evidence is consistent. What's happening in your gut doesn't stay in your gut. Where most of your serotonin actually comes from. Here's a fact that catches most people off guard. An estimated 90% of the body's serotonin, a neurotransmitter closely tied to mood, focus, and emotional regulation, isn't made in the brain. It's produced in the gut, largely by specialized cells in the intestinal lining, and that production process is influenced by the bacteria living alongside them. To be precise about the mechanism, gut bacteria don't manufacture serotonin that then travels up and crosses into the brain. Serotonin itself doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier easily. What they do instead is help regulate the gut's own serotonin production and, through the vagus nerve and other signaling pathways, influence processes that affect brain chemistry and mood indirectly. It's a more nuanced relationship than gut bacteria make your brain's mood chemical. But it's arguably even more interesting, because it means the health of your gut lining and its bacterial residence plays a real, measurable role in your emotional regulation. Why eating healthy isn't enough on its own. This is why nutrition advice that only focuses on what you eat, without considering your gut environment, tells an incomplete story. You can eat a nutrient-dense diet, but if your digestive landscape isn't primed, if your microbial diversity is low, or your gut lining is inflamed, your body may struggle to actually absorb and use those brain-supporting micronutrients efficiently. This is where fermented foods come in. Unlike most cooked or processed food, ferments contain live, active microbial cultures that can help diversify and support your gut ecosystem directly. Let's get into the 5 that the research points to most consistently. The 5 fermented superfoods. Superfood number 1. Yogurt and fermented dairy with live cultures. Fermented dairy, particularly yogurt and kefir made with live, active cultures, is one of the most studied sources of what researchers call psychobiotics, beneficial bacteria strains that may influence brain function through the gut-brain axis. One of the most researched strains is Lactobacillus rhamnosus. In animal studies, this strain has been shown to influence stress-related behavior and neurotransmitter activity in the brain, largely through vagus nerve signaling rather than the bacteria physically reaching brain tissue. It's an important distinction. Bacteria don't cross the blood-brain barrier, but the chemical signals they help generate in the gut absolutely can influence brain chemistry through indirect pathways. Beyond the brain angle, fermented dairy delivers calcium, B vitamins, and immune-supportive compounds, making it a strong daily entry point into this category. Superfood number 2, kimchi. Kimchi, the traditional Korean fermented cabbage dish, is home to a particularly diverse mix of lactic acid bacteria, most notably various lactobacillus species that develop as the vegetables ferment. Beyond its probiotic content, kimchi is rich in vitamin C, vitamin K, and a range of plant compounds with antioxidant properties. Some research on fermented cabbage dishes has pointed to anti-inflammatory effects, which matters for brain health specifically, because chronic low-grade inflammation is increasingly understood to play a role in cognitive decline and mood disorders. A gut environment that helps keep systemic inflammation in check is, indirectly, supporting a healthier environment for the brain as well. Superfood number 3, miso. Miso, made from fermented soybeans and a specific mold culture, brings a different microbial profile to the table, along with the dense concentration of B vitamins, particularly B12 in some varieties, which are essential for neurotransmitter synthesis and nerve function. Fermentation also increases the bioavailability of certain nutrients in soy, meaning your body can access and use more of them compared to eating unfermented soy products. Traditional diets that include regular miso consumption have been associated in population studies with certain positive health markers, though it's worth noting these are observational studies, meaning they show an association, not proof that miso alone causes the effect. Superfood number 4, sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is one of the simplest ferments, just cabbage and salt, but that simplicity is part of its strength, because it's typically unpasteurized when sold raw or homemade. It retains a robust population of live lactic acid bacteria through the entire fermentation process. What makes sauerkraut particularly interesting is its fiber content combined with its probiotic load. Fiber acts as a prebiotic, essentially food for the beneficial bacteria already living in your gut, meaning sauerkraut isn't just introducing new bacteria, it's also helping feed and sustain the beneficial bacteria already there. That combination of probiotic and prebiotic in a single food is sometimes referred to as a symbiotic, and it's considered one of the more efficient ways to support long-term microbial diversity. Superfood number 5, kefir. B-roll, kefir grains. Pouring kefir into a glass. Kefir, a fermented milk drink, or water-based version for those avoiding dairy, typically contains a wider variety of bacterial and yeast strains than yogurt, often 10 or more distinct strains in a single serving, depending on the culture used. This broader diversity is significant because research on the gut microbiome increasingly points to diversity itself, not just the presence of 1 or 2 good strains, as a key marker of a resilient, well-functioning gut ecosystem. Some early research has also looked at kefir's potential role in modulating immune response, given its unique combination of bioactive peptides generated during fermentation, which may help regulate inflammatory signaling in the body. Quick recap of the 5. To recap the 5. Fermented dairy, yogurt, and kefir with live cultures kimchi, miso, sauerkraut, kefir, specifically for its broad strain diversity. Each brings something slightly different to the table. Different bacterial strains, different nutrient profiles, different fermentation byproducts, which is exactly why variety matters more than picking just one and eating it exclusively. Why bioactive peptides matter for immunity. Across all 5 of these foods, fermentation produces something worth understanding on its own. Bioactive peptides. These are small protein fragments generated when microbes break down larger proteins during fermentation, and research has linked various bioactive peptides to immune-modulating effects, including support for the gut lining's barrier function, which is itself a major component of your immune system, since a significant portion of your immune tissue is located in and around the digestive tract. In other words, when you eat fermented foods regularly, you're not just introducing bacteria. You're introducing a range of compounds your own digestion wouldn't otherwise produce, many of which appear to support both gut barrier integrity and immune signaling. You don't need to eat all 5 of these every day to see benefit. Consistency and variety matter more than volume. A realistic starting approach. Rotate 2 or 3 of these into your week. A spoonful of kimchi alongside a meal. Miso soup instead of one lunch. Plain yogurt or kefir as a daily habit. A few practical notes. Look for live and active cultures. Many store-bought fermented products are pasteurized after fermentation, which kills the beneficial bacteria. Check labels for phrases like raw, unpasteurized, or live cultures if the probiotic angle is your priority. Start small if you're new to fermented foods. Introducing a lot of fermented food at once can cause temporary digestive adjustment, bloating, or gas, as your gut microbiome shifts. Small, consistent amounts tend to be better tolerated than a sudden large serving. This isn't a replacement for medical care. If you have a compromised immune system, are pregnant, or have a specific digestive condition, it's worth talking to a doctor before significantly increasing fermented food intake, since some raw ferments carry considerations that vary by individual health status. Your gut and your brain were never separate systems. They've been in constant conversation this entire time. Through the vagus nerve, through serotonin production, through the immune signals your gut bacteria help generate every single day. Fermented foods aren't a miracle cure, and no single jar of kimchi is going to transform your cognitive function overnight. But as a consistent part of your routine, these 5 foods represent one of the most well-supported, food-based ways to support the gut-brain axis and your immune system at the same time. If this video changed how you think about your next meal, share it with someone who's curious about gut health. Subscribe for more evidence-based breakdowns of the science behind everyday nutrition, and let us know in the comments. Which of these 5 ferments are you already eating? And which one are you trying first?